It's crazy.
This meeting started, we got a long agenda.
We got two systems. Just that one.
Morning. So I have overnight travel authorization, so permission to attend the New York State Association of Self-Insured Counties from May 4th through 6th in Oswego.
Question, motion by Supervisor Becker. Any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Just an update, I wanted to let everybody know that I've been working with the town villages, and county highway department in getting a training date. Coordinated with them. I have something scheduled on April 21st. I coordinated with Dig Safely, Patch, and the county HR department to offer training. I have about 12 villages, about 8 scheduled.
We got the safety training.
Safety training, yeah, yeah, and I've reserved a room over at the Ag Center for that. So it's probably about from 8 to noon, is what I have scheduled training for. So other than that, they just kind of do it all on their own and have to reach out individually to these services. So I coordinated it as a whole for everybody. I hope to do this on an annual basis and maybe to add a little bit more to it every year.
Backup date?
What's that?
Is there a backup date?
I don't have the backup dates, everybody was pretty on board with the 21st, so,
Of April?
yeah.
A couple of years ago, there was a snow day on April 23rd.
Hi, Chica.
I don't remember that.
My wife's birthday, we
Oh.
had a snow day on her birthday.
Is it the year that we got like 2 feet of snow or something? Yeah.
Is there any cost to this? Hard.
No, so,
Blizzard though.
Patch offers training free of charge, and so does Dig Safely.
Sometimes when the excavator class, you had to pay.
I think you have to pay for the 4 hour, the initial training. But the hourly, just yearly recertification, they do that free of
Okay.
charge. Yeah.
Jason, who's the person who said, like, somebody? Coordinated with Patch and who?
So Patch and Dig Safely, New York. Dig.
Oh, Dig.
Yeah, Dig. Yeah, Yeah,
It sounded like a man's name I kept hearing.
No.
Got it, thank you.
no, so, and for the Patch, so they really just wanted to do, after I attended a couple of, highway superintendent association meetings, and they were really just looking for what they have to do for their mandated training and their annual training. So I thought that was a good base to start with. Did you have a question here?
Just about the ration training business part of that.
Yeah, that HR. I think you were looking at your tongue. I did say that I was coordinating with HR also. And they're gonna, Dan's gonna do the sexual harassment training for them as well. I know not everybody needs that part of it, so I did kind of put it at the end of the training. So those that have already completed it, like I think county highways and police have already completed it this year, so then they can leave. I can tell you the only part that they will need from the towns and the villages to make the sexual harassment training compliant is their village or town's sexual harassment policy and their reporting procedures. So I did tell the superintendents that they have to reach out to the town supervisors.
Superintendent just asked me yesterday if I knew anything about this.
Yeah, I started talking about it last fall because I attended, the Empire State Safety Association, I went to a training day. And they had a roundtable discussion on these highway, safety days, and Washington County, has been doing one for quite a while. And, I just thought it was a really good idea, so I went to one of their meetings back in November, and they were all kind of on board, so. Yeah, so it just took me a little while to coordinate it, but to kind of coordinate it around what their yearly schedule is, so everybody was happy with it.
Any questions, Tracy?
Yeah, thank you.
No? There we go.
Morning. All right, first thing we have on the list is a contract to renew with Esri. That's the GIS software that we use and been utilizing more now that we have a GIS person here at the county. Pricing has remained the same from last year, so just looking to renew for another year. Hopefully, we're going to utilize this more and more with the new employee that we have, so.
The motion by Supervisor Scobie, any discussion on this? Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 2,
Number 2 is overnight travel authorization. This is for the IT Directors Conference. It is $100 total in cost. That includes all meals and hotel stay for 3 nights. And like I said, so now I'll drive my personal vehicle out to the conference. I went in the fall. It was really good to start meeting some of my colleagues in other counties, so. And it also, they had like a small vendor fair one of the days too. You kind of get some knowledge on what's up and coming as far as, technology or, I guess another thing too is what other counties are doing. We went to multi-factor authentication last year. We were actually one of the earlier counties to do that. So that was a hot topic last year. We were actually at the forefront of that. So it's kind of nice to see what other people were thinking about doing, but that's just an example, so.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry. Motion by Supervisor Grant.
You did.
I wrote it down. And opposed? That carries.
All right, number 3 is a grant application. So Homeland Security has a grant. The last couple of years, they've been doing a cybersecurity grant. This is just permission to apply. The grant, I believe, is due in May, early May. So I'd like permission to apply so we can try and do that. The cap of the grant is not to exceed $50,000. So, but that could be very helpful. We could get it even for network hardware. It would be very beneficial, so. And this is something I'm familiar with doing. When we were in 911, the majority of our grants were all through this same Department of Homeland Security, so pretty familiar with the whole process there.
Yeah, the motion by Supervisor May. Ready to stop for this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so number 4, last year, early on in the year, that same cybersecurity grant was asked for permission to apply. I reached out to DISHES because we were asked what the status of this was. And I reached out to them and they never got our application. So this is before I started the position, but I'm thinking that with everything that happened that time of year, Todd passing away, it just didn't get done. So we're just looking to close out that on the books, I guess, because the grant funds weren't awarded because we never applied, so. Okay.
your FYI.
Yep, I got a couple of FYIs on here. One is for pictometry. That is another imaging software that's used throughout the county in different departments. 911 uses it. It's like aerial imagery instead of like Google Maps being a one-dimensional overview. This lets you get, if you're looking at your house, you can see about 3 sides of it. So if there's an incident at that house, you can have more of an idea of what they're getting into. Real Property also uses it, the assessors use it. It's a good program, and the amount of that contract is $2,200. That's also the same as last year, so no increase in price there, which is great.
So one of the things that was semi-approved after October 21st and 21 for the ARPA ones was potentially a flyover. Is that necessary or not? What are your thoughts on that?
So 100%, a flyover, that was a sticky subject when I was in 911, because everyone wanted a new flyover, everyone is in all the departments that use it, but no one wanted to pay for it, because it's expensive. I know years ago, in like 14, it was 50 grand, I'm sure it is much more now, because they do tons of passes with a plane to get those different angles, you know, and then they bill us for it. So there was never a, you know, who wanted to front the cost, I guess.
So I kind of had $83,000.
Yeah,
Would you want to be in charge of that?
I could, yeah, I mean, I'm already talking to Eagle View,
Yeah,
so.
I don't know where, I mean, I just had a whole list of stuff that I saw over the years.
Yeah.
You wouldn't mind looking into that?
I'll definitely look into that. I'm just gonna let Tony say for it, just so I'm not stepping on toes, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Because we're already renewing the contract, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
When was the last one done, you know?
I want to say it's 2014 was the last one, so it's.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been on the list, so, you know, if we only had money, this is what we'd like, so.
Put on some.
Steve,
Professors didn't know about.
Joe, I'm gonna one printed for you.
Okay, so the second FYI. The second FYI is through SHI. This is another one of those Fortinet firewalls. I've had a few of these. Now, I believe this is my last one. I'll have all of them co-term, so next year I can come in and do them all at once. We bought them all at different times. They all had different expiration dates. So this should be the last one of these. Next year they'll all be the same thing. This one is for Board of Elections. It's a small firewall because their network is not part of ours, so they still need something for security. That's what this device does. It looks at all the traffic going in and out of Board of Elections. So. That's it.
Any questions for Bill?
Willard, did you figure out a time to come out to Jago?
One more time, what?
Did you figure out a time to come out to Jago?
I did talk to Nick, he was supposed to be reaching out, but he's been out a couple days for some family things, so.
I will be out, I won't be in the office after tomorrow until next Monday, so anytime next week or the weekend,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, we'll follow up. And if he doesn't, if I don't hear from him today, I'm not sure if he's coming in yet. I'll just have one of the other guys stop on, yeah.
It shouldn't be too difficult, it's just a little bit of my pay grade.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Thank you.
Awesome. We don't like those. Thank you. Thanks.
And, Bob? Still say something, everybody's gonna look at. Main Street?
It's on 32, section something, that's our final February amounts. I haven't gotten anything else for March.
Motion like that. Number 2, motion on the statement page for performing during the treasurer review time. Yeah.
Carry over from last meeting.
This is something that the treasurer mayor had requested. It was told that she couldn't have it until she returned.
So, official. Board pleasure.
We do it for others.
Uh-huh.
We've done this for others.
This is consistent with the way we dealt with other employees who stepped up in the absence of the department heads, and we compensated them for time when they were performing those duties. We've done that on a number of occasions with other department heads. And last time we discussed this with the treasurer, agreed we would go forward with it, wait until the period of time was. Only twice. The comments are. So. Yeah, so. You want motion?
Move it.
So this is gonna look like a men's salary schedule asked to provide a stipend, just so everybody knows when it shows up on the resolution. We're actually amending the salary schedule to provide a stipend to the deputy.
Think along with 3-2, basically, 2 and 3.
What's the timeline on that, Brian? It says since June to when?
June 2021,
Through
till
the
now.
end of this year.
Wouldn't it be till March 4th or when she's appointed as acting treasurer?
No, she's the deputy treasurer to the end of the year.
But it says here we're gonna, like, be paid for acting treasurer. Oh, that just takes the same thing, just changes the name of it. Right?
Well, and number 3.
So you're not gonna appoint her as treasurer because but we're gonna compensate her for doing
So she'll get the one time for June up until March. And then when the treasurer retired, going forward, she should be given it monthly until
The election.
the election and she actually takes
Right.
off. Right.
I was under the impression I was going to be compensated up into her, starting March 4th, be making what she would be making, which was 82. So I'm not sure if that's the same dollar amount. So there was the stipend for one check and then.
So we're all looking at two things, right? Okay, we're looking at the stipends and then we're looking at the difference between what she makes.
From March to the end of the year,
Yeah.
of this year.
So it's 278. March 4th. I'm checking.
But what you would do is set the salary temporarily. And then it would revert to whatever number, Rhonda negotiates with the new deputy. And she'll bring that back a little bit. So the salary schedule will reflect a stipend of $2,500 a month from June to March. Which we will actually see on the salary schedule, but the resolution will reflect that. And then from March 4th to the end of the year, because she's the deputy treasurer, performing treasurer duties until the election, and actually through the end of the year. The compensation will be in the treasurer's. And then it will revert back to whatever number she negotiates with her.
So there will be, so between March 4th and the end of the year will be 2,000.
That's the proposal.
We have a motion by Jerry for the 2. That one first.
discussion on number 2? All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Now, number 3, to bump her salary up from March 4th to the end of the year. So the salary of treasurer. 82,000. Overall, is an increase in what she did now. But she realized that's only better than herself.
Then we won't be paying a deputy treasurer then at this time.
Until she gets one. She's not really get one.
She's proposing to create a junior deputy treasurer because she's gonna need the help.
And we have to have legally get a backup. It's-
You never back up for the treasurer. Somebody says that's their essence.
Which is later in the agenda.
And we want to motion that. There's a vote. Discussion on this. Favor? Opposed? Carries. And the agenda will be open. I get a question off. Agree. All right, number 4.
Fourth is brought to me, Mr. Francis, is we just got the new postage machine for the government center. That's the values that she didn't actually find where the company's names changed. So this is just housekeeping for that, because she had mail finance, which is it's now compiling leasing. Just to take care of the contract.
It's two things. One is the lease and one is the service.
Yes, which
No.
they bundle into that one price, that was 74.48.
On that,
Yeah.
Commissioner Brady Brick. Any more discussion on this? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Number 5, being records or current fiscal administrators used to be taking leave of absence to move into the number 6, the junior deputy treasurer position at the end of the year and the results of the election. So then when she moves to the 2 fill her fiscal admin position through the end of the year.
We're just backfilling.
This is her fill, yeah.
Who do you have in mind?
I'm open to suggestions. I would love to find somebody from outside and then has, really strong background in business. Several other counties are on this week too.
That was from 6 before 5.
Sure.
Supervisor Moore. Item 6. Any more discussion on this? Favor? Opposed? Carries.
That's all I have.
So, yeah, we got a motion for the draw. Thank you, Robin. Very well.
Morning. So I'm starting off with a correction. There are very few corrections this year, so I'm curious building. It's from the assessor. Unfortunately, when she ups the assessed value, it's a holding some property. She just forgot to increase the exemption amount to match, and therefore a tax bill was created for a property owner that we're now blocking, so that should be only exempt. So this will just cancel out the bill. Zero.
I know.
Motion by Supervisor Kane.
I can move it.
It's less money for you.
Yeah, I know. No, we're in a town tax, so it doesn't have to be.
Any more discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 2.
Okay, my second item is appropriation. So as you know, town and county tax bills come out very late in the year. They're actually printed a couple last week of the year. By the time we received the invoice this year for ABS, they had closed out 2021 budget, and therefore the funds that were budgeted to pay for this bill were sent back to the general fund. So we're requesting those funds back so that we can now pay the invoice. That's an unfortunate time of year. It's right tax insurance, so. Questions?
Discussion on this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? H5.
Next item is just permission to go out to bid. Our contract is up for our printing services, ABS. So this is basically the same bid that we have done back in 2019, which is some clerical updates. And just a little tweak as far as requesting that they web-based portal for the information transfer. Other than that, everything else is extremely similar to the last bid.
Supervisor King. For discussion on this one? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Number 4.
So Rhonda had come to me because she's updating her process for subdivision maps. And so she asked if in that process we would like to be included as far as real property. It is done that way in other counties. And there is a portion of the law that allows us to charge a fee. Those are set fees that are in the law. There is a range 1 to 3, and then it goes up from there. I did provide a sheet that is what we would be charging at 75 and then 100. For most individuals, we feel that there's no need for a charge. So the 1 to 3, we recommended 0 charge. That would be a normal resident coming in just to split their land between, family members and so on. So this would mainly affect developers that were coming into the area looking for, an actual subdivision. It does take a little bit of time to review those. And so it's a $75 minimum fee. It would be waived for the 1 to 3, but it is important that we become part of this process, only because that's where we actually find the most errors. We have attorneys that represent these larger developers. They do this all the time, where sometimes you have homeowners come in there just trying to split property, where we find a little bit more hacking errors. So it would be nice to become part of that process, and we recommend looking into that. Looking forward to covering those.
What was that, 4 parcels already to be submitted?
I provided a worksheet, but I don't have it in front of me,
In your block, it's just not finished.
4 through 9.
4 through 9 is 75, right?
and those are set by the law.
And then 10 and over is $100.
Yes.
Sarah, are these fees charged regardless of whether or not the town has a land separation law on the books?
This would be when they come in for us to review. So we've gotten to the point where they're filing the subdivision map. So it would have gone through any other approvals that were necessary for that. It's separate from this. It's just the point of where they're filing the subdivision map with the clerk. So one of the steps would be to filter through the real property office to ensure we don't discover any errors. So it has nothing to do with approvals or zoning laws or any kind of laws, local laws.
Okay.
Motion by Supervisor Kobe. Any more discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 5,
The next is just a follow-up on the volunteer firefighter ambulance exemption. I have been in contact with Jennifer Wilkinson. We have discussed some of the details that came up last meeting. We are in the works of drafting a document that we think would be appropriate, and then hopefully I'll have that for review at next committee meeting. That is in the works. Next is just, we ordered our winter equipment, so we're very excited about that, so we provided the information. The amount that was budgeted for was $6,000, we came in just under that, so we will be receiving that just in time. Right now, we're using some tape to printer together to actually. It's coming. And then, this is just additional info only. We are working with the villages currently for their upcoming taxes, providing their updated taxable amounts and impact reports, getting all of their clerical information to put those bills together. Our attendance rolls will be out on May 1st, so I can contact any of the assessors for impact reports, assessment notices, just putting those rolls together, getting the exemption amounts of it. So that has been keeping us busy. Our Board of Assessment Review training is scheduled for April 25th. It's going to be over at Social Services in the evening. All of our members have been contacted that need to take the training. There is an online training available this year as well. So if anyone reaches out to you and has a question about that, just contact our office, but it is available online for your residents that can't physically make it. Then lastly, GIS, we're very excited. As we will be in town the next couple of days, we have a number of department heads that will be meeting with them to talk about how they're currently using GIS, how they could use GIS further, and they will then put a report together that we can present to all of you as a program for how it's currently being utilized and how we can improve workflows and what else we can do for our residents.
Sarah? What's the board? Anyone? Any environmental contract? One, county resource agency, Margaret Road, Silver Springs. Funding provided by the Interstate Countywide Shared Services Mission Matching Funds Grant. Realized in 2020 for meter purchases and mobile data collection. $15,206.06. That is the amount from the original amount with 5% last retained by the Interstate. April 12th, 2022. Yeah, right?
Number 1 and 2 together.
Okay.
Same grant, correct?
Yes.
Motion. Discussion on either one or two then.
Carol, we did receive the money for the paper shared service.
Awesome. Everybody else should have received a little bit from the city. Fire projects.
Any more discussion? And a motion by Supervisor King for 1 and 2. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, number 3, ordinance general authorization. Association of Clerks. On that, Supervisor May. Discussion on this one.
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. And top page 7. Motion to purchase 6 laptop tablets for supervising 30 meetings. We discussed this before, we talked about it, a few years ago, we talked about possibly getting the sheriff's uniform, excuse me, out of the patrol car. Currently, that's not gonna work. What's the board's role in this?
How much are they?
I haven't even looked, but they're somewhere around $400 or $500, if I remember correctly, they might be a little more than that, but. They're nothing fancy, it's just to use here.
Fix them up. 6 of them right now.
Well, I didn't want to get more than 6 because several of the supervisors have their own.
I see 5.
There were a few that, I did kind of an inventory myself, Jerry, and I thought, if I can start with 6 and see how that rolls, that would be.
Are you gonna start with printing less agendas then? if you
That's what I'm hoping, yeah, and then it's just easy for everybody, and I'm kind of hoping to get like the touch screen ones so that you can touch the screen and hit a link and it'll load it. I'll get more, if I can, because I was given permission a couple of years ago, and then Todd came in and said, hey, wait, I've got these laptops, and I don't think it was the road patrol, I think it was the jail. But it never materialized, and that was like 3 years ago. So, I had a brief conversation with Janice, and she's mentioned maybe asking if we can use some of the ARPA funds, so. Here I am, seeing if we could try this again.
Well, not to be correct, not to be negative about it, but will it be used? The supervisors are.
If I don't put agendas, they will.
Right.
I show them how to use them, they will be used.
Yeah, I would use it. I just don't bring mine because mine's a pretty good sized laptop, so I don't carry it. I do have a tablet, but out of times on my tablet, I can't open the attachments.
And the thought would be that they're sitting on the committee table, already brought up, with an agenda on them, so whoever wants one can grab one and just come into chambers with them, and then, because there will be nothing else on it, it's not like your personal.
So if we were to make notes on the agenda, would we have to bring, obviously, a thumb drive or something to save those? Or upload it to,
Or bring a
Okay.
notepad, take your notes.
okay, so what's the benefit then? Just have to print fewer agendas?
So we are
These 27 page
because,
agendas?
you're not getting the attachments now, if you're picking up
Right,
it's not-
right, sure.
Today's agenda is 27 pages long, that's without all of the links.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Thing of it is,
Are there 6 people that don't own a laptop or a tablet of some sort?
Well, I'm doing it. I bring my own, but I also make a paper copy.
Which you still have the option to if you print it out at home before you.
That's
come
right.
in.
Right.
You're
If you want to take notes on the actual agenda form.
thing of it is, Cheryl takes pretty good notes, in a day, you've got it. You can download it, do what you want with it, all the information's already there.
yeah, you don't even have to download them, because all you have to do is go to the county website, it's all organized. But if you take different notes, then
I say move it. It's not that much. We're not talking a big amount of money, so, and if it helps those girls, why not?
Any more discussion on this?
Yep, you got it.
Motion by Supervisor May. All in favor?
Right.
So are we approving an appropriation?
let me get
Get some
some,
quotes?
yeah, because I've done without them this long, let me get some quotes, and then we'll bring an appropriation back next
Yeah.
month. So we're thinking about how
So we have to promise not to watch YouTube videos.
I don't think we'll be able to.
This one is.
During,
Not unless I link them to your agenda.
All right,
we could use the YouTube video off of here.
Sure.
I heard the ayes, I didn't ask for any nays. Anybody opposed to this? All right, so carried. All right, anything else? Nope. You sure? And Janice, with the budget.
So lots of attachments, which you guys probably don't have in front of you, but I did try to send out the income statement to your email yesterday. Hopefully you had a chance to look at it. But anyways, the first box is for, again, is 2021 housekeeping type transfers, clean up the budget. There was nothing unusual in them. I mean, if there was anything larger, I asked for additional information. If you have any questions, by all means, come see me and I can explain it to you. These are just cleaning up accounts, mostly salary and fringes. When there's changes or, you know, employees leave, employees come. There are only a couple of accounts that I had to transfer from contingency. Usually we would bring two, but one was the veterans. Of course, they had some interesting changes in their staffing, with people leaving and paying out people. That's always seems to be the issue. Paying out, people's vacation and whatever. The other one was the public defender, because they pay all this money out, but they have a hard time doing the grants to get them in, no matter how hard I try to help them. It's just kind of a mess, and they wanted to appropriate more revenue to pay for it, and I wouldn't let them because they hadn't even claimed the revenue that was there. So I did take money from contingency. The next thing, again, Jalen has
To recoup that, right? That's basically.
yeah, it's just for the record, you guys gave me the approval to do that. If it's 2022, we're still doing the process where we bring in. Of course, you did give me permission to make small changes to settle grants or make grants matching grant budgets, because when you do the budget in August and you're thinking about a grant, and it's difficult. So we do a little bit of shoring up there, but yes, the process for 2022 will be as it normally would be.
So, contingency to the public defender. What about his grant?
So we're still working on it. We're trying to get paid for 2020. Yeah. Okay. I have been on the phone with the state. We've been working really hard, and just.
Sure. I just have a question. I'm trying to remember, did they ever feel that they had seen financial issues and stuff?
They did. They did. So, they have the fringe benefit rate calculation. I kind of touched on this a little bit last month, but I was waiting on some additional approvals from the hospital. And there were some other quick changes, some errors in posting that we came across with the accruals as well. And so this is a pretty accurate number, unless something changes from the day I did this, which we really need. I think we're trying to close the book, so this can't happen anymore, but it's getting there. So our fringe rate, 46.89, that's for 2022, based on 2021 actual figures. And that's the way we always consistently do it. That is just a smidge higher than the year before, lower than some years. And I found that basically, and I talked about this last time, it's when the union agreement is settled or, you know, pay increases, because there was none in 2021, which makes that go up a little bit. 2022 will be less, most likely. Also, you know, our workers' comp is looking really good. And every year I do an accounting entry for that fund. And the goal was always to be 100% funded for workers' comp, which that would be my goal, but I'm not in charge of it. I mean, I think 95% is pretty good. I mean, so I think we're pretty close with workers' comp. So I don't see our comp rates going up significantly unless something happens to change those actuarial projections, but that comp fund is looking good. Whereas in the past, we could see 5, 6, 8% increases in our comp costs, so that's looking good.
Janice, is that just county or does that include the hospital?
The fringe rate?
Yeah.
Countywide, everything, yep.
Thank you.
Yep, but you know, I do the fringe rate for certain departments too, for various things, like the sheriffs, because they have the court security and, you know, it's right around there. It's not too far off, you're not talking, I mean, if you start narrowing it down too much, you've got, you know, a lot, you know, where you have a department where you've got a lot of, I want to say, the salary with the same amount of fringes compared to another department where there's salaries way up here and the same amount of fringes, that's gonna make a real difference, but we're still, you know, in general, if you took the general fund and the hospital fund and even the highway fund, you're right in the neighborhood.
With the changes in the retirement system, is that having an effect on this as well? We're getting, you know, as veteran employees are retiring and we're hiring new, the retirement system is different.
It's really hard to tell, like, because we have more employees. So it's really hard for me. Yes, the bill is less than it used to be. Of course, it used to be 18 or 19%, and now on average, in 2022, you're looking at like 13% average. But there's a lot more people, it just seems like there's a lot more people because we have a lot more grants and they all get, you know, you can be a per diem and opt into the system, so. It's hard to tell if that's,
Because it's now, the retirement system isn't nearly as beneficial to the new employees.
it's really not. I'm finding a lot of things,
It's tough.
when I have eyeballs at things that we talk about negotiating higher percentages to pay for your insurance. So as a new employee, you know, it used to be county had these amazing benefits, but now with the retirement, I mean, it's better than nothing. You know, if you're paying 20% for your insurance, even though that's still pretty good. But you're gonna have to pay what the market's paying, and I think we've been seeing that to get people up. You know, it's a different way of looking at it. Our vacation time and sick time, I think is still a lot better than the private sector, so I think that's what a lot of people look at. And those costs, those benefit costs are included in this fringe rate because it's actual salaries to actual fringe dollars going out the door. you know, if someone takes a day off, you're still getting the same amount of pay. So.
Taking on some data loss.
But anyway, that information's attached if you want to take a peek at that. The income statement, was anyone, I know Alan emailed me this morning, so, or whenever. Was everyone able to kind of take a look at that? Do you want me to go through? I mean, I definitely want to touch base on where we are, because I think it's significant. So. Can I show a show of hands from anyone who's looked at it, just so I know how much to go into it? Okay.
I couldn't, my internet is.
That's okay. I just want to get an idea of how much in depth I want to go over it. So basically, I went over we're hopefully closing the books tomorrow. That's the plan anyways, on 2021. So these aren't final numbers. They're not obviously audited. We haven't even begun that process yet. But I mean, I'm feeling good about these numbers. So what I did was I went through and made some notes on things that were above what we typically would see in a budget. Now, I'm going to tell you, when we get down to the bottom and we see, you know, I'm surprised I didn't get more calls or emails because it's a huge number that we're returning to the accounts. But I was able, you know, I've explained it. There's a lot going on in 2022 or 2021, and you have to remember in 2020 when we did the budget, there was the pandemic was on the full force pandemic. So some of the things that we saw in 2021 as a benchmark to what was budgeted was obviously we all know about the tax auction. We had a rather large piece of property that went for a large amount of money. That was about the tax auction. We typically budget about 200,000, and sometimes we make it, sometimes we don't. And this year we were closer to 690,000, so we had some extra there. Also, we all know the sales tax, which nobody could have really projected in a pandemic, coming in about $3.7 million more than what we had budgeted. Again, I think what contributed to that was the change in the law to allow the internet sales to be taxed and remitted to the county where it was purchased.
Free money.
That if that had not been enacted, I think we would have been missing out on a lot of this revenue. So I think there was a twofold there. I made some notes about the reserves, so everyone knows, they have an idea of which accounts go directly to a reserve account. So we've got the traffic control or the traffic diversion, TAC's assets. And I made a note what the total reserve amount is. Again, that amount is to be used for either committed or restricted purposes. I made a note about the public defender. They were over 200,000 over budget. Again, that's because we're not getting the claims in, and I can only do so much. I don't want to say that they're not doing a good job. They're keeping up, but I think it could be done better. I just need some work. I also made a note because you're going to notice the ARPA money I made claims to in 2021. So those are kind of highlighted in green and they look ARPA. So you might look at the auditor and we budgeted 23,000, but we didn't, it looks like a levy of 0 because that's where I claimed ARPA money. We used it for auditors or, you know, certain things. I made notes if there was a big dollar amount that's kind of sitting out there. You know, like the DA brought in some money for the treasurer. The clerk fees and mortgage tax, that was significantly higher in 2022. We bumped that up quite a bit. See what happens. Other miscellaneous notes. Basically, what I do is I scan down through, and if the levy looks wrong or like up or down by a significant amount, I'm making a note for you. I'm also making notes. We did IT, ARPA, we did community colleges, $2 million in ARPA, more reserves. Jail, we were lucky enough to continue to house Genesee County inmates. We weren't sure if the jail would be built in time, but with the COVID pandemic, that kind of was put on pause, but I see now they're they're breaking ground, so we might see that revenue disappear.
Another year and a half.
We've kind of been expecting it. But we also got some state ready inmate money, 137,000, which we haven't seen that in years, so that was a nice hunk of change. See. I did make a note in here that I was still working with Jess Merrill at Public Health to get her fourth quarter state aid plan in. You know, she took over for Kim Standish, and she had a lot on her plate, and we kind of worked through some things. And yesterday I did get that, and I booked that. It was about $145,000 additional in revenue, so just keep that in mind. Also, for family planning, we came in where we were roughly budgeted, but we do have to close out that clinic. So in 2022, we'll have to take a real look at what hasn't been paid and write off what hasn't been paid. But I believe they're still doing collecting. Social services. We'll talk about, I made a note. I'm not exactly sure what's happening with social services. They returned an awful lot back to them. It's not like this big, you know, so I did, you know, I reached out. I'm trying to get some answers because I'm not exactly sure. And I haven't heard from them yet. Okay. I made a note where we brought in serial bonds for the Ag Center. That came in 2021, cash came in. But that's when it gets reported, when the money comes in, but it doesn't get reported until it goes out. So that happens 2022. What else? Basically, what's important to know is on page 37. So on page 37, I did a recap of the general fund. And basically, I take, and just for Alan, if you're on, I can hear.
Yep.
Those totals at the very bottom in the first and second column, they don't, they're not going to total what you would think they would total. Because you're comparing at the top apples and on the bottom oranges, because at the top it's just levy, it's a net, and at the bottom it's revenue. So you're right, those numbers wouldn't make sense. But the difference is the part that I'm drawing your attention to. So basically what I'm talking about, for those who haven't really looked at it, the DSS levy, which is comprised of a few different things, so I wanted to break those out for you. They're returning $3.5 million to fund balance. That $3.5 million, I'm gonna say $1.6 million is money that I had budgeted for IGT and Dish. So it didn't really end up anywhere, but I can send it out to you after the committee. I always keep track of IGT and dish by year, by budget. Because there could be some years where we budget 3 million and we get 6, or we have to pay 6 million. There are some years where we budget 3 million and we only have to pay 2 million. So this would be one of those years where we budgeted more, paid less, but it'll catch up with us. So I will send that history out to you guys. Goes back into fund balance and is what it is, but there's years, and I have that history where we budgeted X and we paid out 2 million more, you know, and that comes from fund balance. So it's kind of I like to track that one separately. Additionally, there was additional federal funds that lowered the weekly Medicaid rate that we have to pay to the state. The program levy for DSS, this is your juvenile delinquents, your TANF, your special need, all those type of programs based on need. They're returning $958,000 in levy. That I understand, that makes sense to me because you don't know, and you don't want to be caught paying $1 million or $2 million more than what you had budgeted. So that I kind of anticipate. What I don't quite anticipate is in the administration returning just under $1 million. So, I mean, that's, you know, your operations, which seem consistent. So that's what I'm trying to get a read on. The only thing I can think of is some additional federal funding that might have come down that maybe offset that, but I'll get some answers and I'll send an email out to you folks. The other area, so that's 3.5 million. Just so you have an idea of where we're trying to work up to is we're returning $14 million to fund balance, which is incredibly, I've never seen anything like that. And I've talked to other finance people and they're like, we're in the same boat. So the other pieces are 3.8 for sales tax interest, that kind of piece. Let's add the tax option, we know that was $689. The clerk and mortgage fees were $255,000 more. These are little, I call them smaller areas. The inmate housing, which we didn't budget for, $228. So those are kind of smaller, but significant when you add them all together. But then you have the ARPA funds, and just in the general fund, I claim $2.1 million. So when I say that, that's $2.1 million that we discussed. You know, we had the $7.8 million. You as a group decided you're going to do about $2.5 million of expenditures that we kind of already knew were happening and we budgeted for, but we're allowed to claim it so we can get our fund balance going and we can use the funds more freely when it goes back into the fund balance. The rest we allocated to projects that have been on the back burner for years. Let's call them new items. So just in the general fund, I claim $2.1 million of our funds. And then again, the $3.9 million for the Ag Center. So that totals $14.6 million, or $14.6 million, which is where we are. So I'm feeling okay about the numbers, like there's not a mistake. And the reason why I plucked those pieces out the way I did is because we aren't spending extra money to make the money. So these are all areas where there's no additional expenses related to sales tax. There's no additional expenses related to the top tax option or mortgage fees, or housing the inmates. And we're covering those expenses anyway. So this is free and clear over the top money. So with that, I just want you to know that I've worked on the 5-year plan, taking a hard look at where we are, how that affects things, how we can use that money to do a number of things. Whether it's taxes at zero, reduce taxes. I mean, these aren't my decisions, those will be your decisions. We could set up, I could investigate different reserves. I don't know. When I did the 5-year, and I think we need to have a separate work group, if you will, because it's gonna take a little while for you guys to understand what I'm talking about. But when I do the 5-year plan, I actually did a 6-year plan, because that's the year I retire. So I did 6 years this time. And we get out to the 6th year and we keep taxes under 2, 0 or 1, I know, somewhere in there, then our fund balance will be right where it needs to be. According to our fund balance policy of 15% of our general fund expenditures. So, that's that. So I'm almost thinking we can, if there's a way we can set up a time to kind of go over where we want to be, where we want to go, and couple that with the remaining ARPA funds and what we want to do with those, now that we've kind of gone through and heard people's requests. I have a list here. We have really allocated, we've allocated by either resolution or by agreement, just over $7 million. So we have, about $750,000 still to allocate. I've been keeping track of some of these requests that have come through, boom tractor, some lead boy thing, a wood chipper, some storage for IT. The laptops, we're talking about $500,000 by the time you add that all together. Again, is that what you want to do? There's some other things that I know that were out there, some ad center costs that for renovating to the wall thing at the end. I mean, there's just things that we need to talk about. And I need your direction on how we should move forward with that.
Janice, I think there are also some grants that we may be applying for that require matching funds. Things like the Silver Lake dredging project,
So we have to be careful of that because we can't, I think that's state, did we get state money? We can't use the ARPA money for federal money.
Right, but we can use fund balance, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's what we need to talk about. We need to talk about what projects we have out there. Like, I know we got money for the fire training center.
Yes.
I'm sure there's
Almost 600,000.
right, so I don't know what the plan is up there. I don't know if it's gonna be 1.2 million and.
Probably not.
I would guess that we'll consume much of the grant just in replacing a generator or something up there, a good chunk of
These are
that.
things I don't know the answers to right now.
Right. So I don't think we have a hard estimate for the fire training center in terms of what the full cost would be until Mike has an opportunity
Right.
to really go in and assess. But that's another area that,
Sure, so I think we need to spend some time talking about options, talking about what you guys want to do. I will definitely get with Mike beforehand, make sure we have a solid CIP plan. We tend to do, we get together at least every 4 months and review, where are we, what do we need, what's bumping what for the next
right.
5 years.
What is particularly concerning to me, though, is over the last several years, we've got this creep going on where we're seeing the tax rate per assessed thousand continue to go up and up and up and up. And, you want to be able to be fiscally conservative, especially with that overall assessed value per thousand, because that's the amount that people end up paying for. And I think, you know, utilizing some funds for tax relief is always good.
Sure.
Otherwise, you kind of price yourself out of the, you know, the market.
I think too, so for me, I look at levy to levy. That's, I don't even look at the tax rate just because it could go, you know, your growth can go up 7%. And then, and your tax rate, you know, so I look at levy to levy. That's the only way I mean, when it comes to budget time, I figure it out for you guys, but for me, it's levy to levy. And one thing I noticed when I was here until 6 o'clock last night, because I couldn't get it out of my head that I had to see where we were going. And when I really took a hard look at estimates based on history, and I can show you that, revenues increased by, let's just say 3%, just for easy numbers. But the expenses tend to increase by, let's say, 3.2%.
Sure.
So what happens is you're like this. So if you use your fund balance to offset that, and we've talked about this before, so we can use fund balance to reduce it, but what happens is this continues to go like this. No matter about the, you know, you can't continue to use that forever, is the thing I'm trying to say. So if I would use it for 2023 to make that 0, then 2024 is even bigger. And we've seen that, I've shown you that in those spreadsheets. But again, like I said, I've been doing this a while, so it seems like every 6 years, 7 years, we get some pile of money out of the sky for, you know, to help us out. It just happens.
Regardless, I mean, every year when you budget, you've typically used either general and highway to offset.
Sure, yep. And I do that knowing that DSS is gonna return X amount. So I know that our fund, you know, I just know that. I know we're gonna return, you know, $1 million. So if I say we're gonna use $1 million of our fund balance to offset that, it's because I kind of know that they're gonna, you know, overall, we're gonna return that, because we don't spend every penny in the whole entire budget.
Sure. So my assumption is, though, that you're going to continue that practice as long as,
I mean, I think it would be wrong not to.
yeah.
Because basically you're raising taxes $1 million more when I know out of a $80 million budget, we're probably gonna return about $1 million. I mean, this 14 million, completely unheard of. And a lot of it's timing, a lot of it was pandemic related, where who the heck knows what was gonna happen. But obviously going into 2023, we're gonna have a better idea of how, you know, where it's going.
The big unknown in my mind is the hospital. And that could potentially blow us right up.
Well, sure, and it always potentially can. And we've had that issue before, and it just. So in the budget, I did account for an increase every year, and I thought it's fair. I think it was like a 3% increase every year. Maybe even less than that. Whether we want to do that or not, but you're talking about an operation that is.
Well, I think, you know, I have a number that I'm comfortable with, and I'm sure the other supervisors do as well. You know, and understanding that, you know, it may require some subsidy on the part of the county, but we can't get outrageous with that. Otherwise, it impinges on our ability to do other things.
Correct. Oh yeah, I completely understand. And so right now, we budgeted $3 million and then some change for rural North Main, which we took that. And as soon as that bond's gone, that'll go away, and it'll probably just not with other things, but in my plan for 2022 even, I increased it by about $750,000. Not officially, just to kind of cover, to think about, that lump sum payment, the ARPA payment that we're talking about, and how I can get that to them to cover that, for that retro for the CSEA. I have to work through that and figure out how I can do that and what that number is. Apparently I have to submit that ARPA claim by April 30th.
Right.
So I've got like a week to figure this all out. Because I go to Italy for 3 weeks, so. I'm not sure how we do that. But I'll figure it out. So I'm hoping to give them money for that. I'm getting some numbers from HR. Whether you guys want to do that or not, I mean, that was approved in our ARPA meeting in October. I think we approved 1.2 million. I got some numbers for general fund, and I added FICA and Medicare, that's it to it. And we're at like $650,000.
But those are one-time shots.
One-time shots. So I'm assuming the hospitals is probably, I mean, somewhere at least in that neighborhood, if not up more.
I think
So
those numbers were yesterday.
he gave what numbers?
What the most some amounts would be for the hospital.
I asked Jen for them yesterday, so
Yeah, that's what I did.
what's he gonna do with them?
Yeah, we sent him what payroll needs to pay out for the Schedule C and CCA hospital employees, the lump sum of claim that on the 22nd of April. And
Oh, they weren't paid out with the other CSCA? Okay, I did that, I did not know that.
that didn't yet to be paid.
Okay,
And I gave him the amounts down to the penny yesterday, Merle. The county side has been paid.
yes.
as you know.
So they may need that money. I added it to I added it to my projections. I also obviously changed the sales tax to increase sales tax. I mean, I don't just look at like put a number there, even though it looks like there's nothing to it, Dan, I know. I spend a lot of time looking at it and spend a lot of time how I come up with the numbers, so no one can see into the future, but at least I can make the best educated guess. And I know typically, this is a little bit off, but typically throughout the year, I send you guys a list of what we've appropriated throughout the year. I don't know if you guys, do you guys care about that list? Because the whole thing's gone because we appropriated that 3.9 million to pay for. And essentially, everything appropriate is coming from fund balance. So everyone can still keep track of it if you want. I just don't know what, if you guys even, do you want that list still?
Sure. Why not?
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was beneficial or not, or if you care. Okay. So, probably, maybe in June, we could maybe, I guess I kind of am looking for a time when we can meet before I have to work on the budget, to just get a better idea of where we're headed. So we're not scrambling in July. I mean, obviously we won't have great numbers, you know, for 2023 in June, but at least I'll have an idea of what you guys want to use that for. So maybe we can come up with a date in June to sit down and do ARPA and 5-year planning. Maybe by then I'll have some information for a plan. So if anyone actually looks at that and has any questions or doesn't understand my notes, just email me. It's okay. It's confusing. I know. The other thing was cell phone transfer.
Yeah, James, I don't know if I've got the right number, because your spreadsheet doesn't match what Dee sent out. Dee's got about 3 more phones on her list than you have on yours.
What department?
1167 was omitted, so that's 240. And DSS 6010 is up by 2, that's 480.
Okay, so we're gonna have to, so here's what's happening. So, basically, we need to get a good number, but everyone budgeted the cell phone at $20 in a contractual line. We need to move it to a salary line, because now it's gonna be a taxable benefit. And we worked to try to get a good number. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, wait, what are we doing? There was departments we didn't even know they could get reimbursed, and now there's more, and so people are gonna have to take care of their own budgets, but we had a list. So basically what this transfer is anyone, and maybe we can relook at it before, after this today, because I wanna make sure we have a good number. The only thing I'm moving is contractual cell phone amounts that were budgeted in 2022. That's the only amounts I'm moving from there to 0.1. Because by policy, I need to bring it. It's not like a housekeeping or anything like that. So that's what I'm doing. And I'll have to relook at that and make sure. And I'll work with I don't know, it has something to do with when the contracts were approved or who had contracts when. But we'll work on that. But if I did get approval to do that, it's not adding money to the budget, it's just moving it from 0.4 to 0.1.
I don't think it really needs to go as a regular transfer. In my mind, is really kind of housekeeping, just moving it from a contractual line to a one-time payroll.
This is a new policy
Yeah,
this year.
yep, last year it was passed so that it was effective.
So everyone who has a cell phone issued by or their own,
There's a process.
they get a 1099 at the end of the year, right?
No.
In their W-2.
It's a taxable benefit. How's it
It's in their payroll.
in their payroll?
Well, the difference happens to be by putting it on their payroll, we're not asking for them to provide backup, because it can still be a reimbursement on payroll, but there are so many different forms of backup. It was getting way too cumbersome for the budget office to have to identify all the different forms of
Due
proof.
dates.
So
Yeah, it's
by switching this over from a reimbursable item to a payroll allowance, it's taxable, because we're not asking for proof. They're signing contracts, the department heads are saying, yep, this is what we want them to do. The chairwoman is approving them, and it's on their payroll as a allowance.
It's not everyone, Dan, it's according to need. It's according to the department head who has the authority to say, yes, this person is required, and they're using their personal cell phone. I mean, I don't get it. There's a lot of people who don't ask for it, but there are people who do, and it's up to the department head.
And I think that a lot has changed too, because with the security on the computer, people are using their cell phones, so they put it on the reimbursement.
But they don't have to, because I have it I have it ringing to my desk phone, because the less I use my personal phone for work.
So we leave it up to the employee then to manage their plan with whatever carrier they want and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and there's some language built into the contract that, they've got to have an active account, they've got it, we have to have the number so that, you know, we can get a hold of them. There's some
Okay,
criteria built into that contract that they're signing.
got it.
So basically, I was just asking permission for that, if I didn't want to list it. I did attach it, but there.
Yeah, I think I attached $14,000.
And by policy, it should go to the board, but if you make an exception, I don't know. I mean, I do what I'm told, I do what policy says, so I don't know.
So every year, this committee gives Janice permission to do some cleanup. In my mind, this is the same thing. And it won't look ugly on a resolution, because this might look a little ugly on a resolution. And these are little, we're talking $240 a person, so. But there's a lot of them.
There it is.
So you don't want to.
I don't want a resolution, but I want an approval out of this committee.
Motion by Supervisor King. Any more discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That carries.
Just so you guys know that the reason why we have to go through that is when you adopt the budget, you adopt it by 0.1s, 0.2s, 0.4s, 0.8s. So anytime we move, it's basically your approval of the approved budget. So for those of you who don't know why we do that, that's why. I had a couple other things, it's okay. I got an email, apparently, and I apologize, I'm trying to get some other stuff done. In public safety, you approved ARPA funds for a copier. Okay,
Probation.
Yeah, probation. Probation. Yes, don't.
can we just do an appropriation from any funds available? And the real reason why I say that is I'm trying to keep like $5,000, just because I have to report every single expenditure to the IRS and out of just under $8 million.
Okay.
So
I'd rather not nickel and dime.
Can we do that when we get to that point though, because that's on here.
It is up there?
Yeah, appropriations. Oh.
No, she didn't do one, it just was brought up.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking. If she wants this, we're gonna need to do an appropriation now.
Okay.
So that, she can order it.
I will make that motion.
So we can appropriate $2,550 to, it'll be, IT 0.4411 as the, I'll do it for you, 3140, 41111.
Get it all, but if you're gonna.
I'll do it, and with any funds available.
It's fine.
Okay, and then that way, if we can approve that now, we'll get it on the resolution for next week, so that she'll be able to get a purchase order and otherwise she's got to wait.
Okay. No problem. I'll make that motion.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries.
Okay, I'm done. I already talked about her.
All right.
I am gonna be submitting a claim for 2.5 million. 2.5 and another, 150. Yeah, almost $3 million, I'm gonna send a claim to the IRS somehow, some way. I've got it all done, I just don't know what form I took out, forms, and I just have to read it, so hopefully that's my job next week to get that out there before I leave.
Pre-recess. 3 o'clock.
3 minutes,
3 minutes. Oh, that's not long.
really?
Well, I better take advantage of this.
Not long enough to go raise.
Taking a break.
I know I should, my friend, it's killing me. Let's move from this side to this side.
Give it up.
My mom more. Doesn't know. How do they even get from
Run by the same rules.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Brings a thing that keeps track of and exercise. Instead of 20 minutes, at least 1 minute. I had it all 24 hours. And yeah, it says you haven't stood up in the last 15 minutes.
Dish history one, which block, where?
To the income statement.
If it needs, what needs to be done, then on. Tuesday, March 22nd, I stood for at least 1 minute for every hour. I don't sleep well.
Let's see what the basketball meeting. I wanted to go bragging rights. And okay, the other one, I want a little bit of money. So I'm like. Doesn't look. I goes down, rolls up.
Hey Janice, have we heard if we get any of our back money from the Seneca compact that they paid out? We should be getting money out of that. We should be getting money out of that.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, for the new stadium. No, really.
That's why the
we
budget
should've
hasn't
got-
passed.
Huh?
That's why the budget hasn't passed. New York City doesn't.
Yeah, it's going down.
Yep, sure. It's not passing the budget. Come to an agreement.
And Senecas are bad.
Yeah, they put out.
Wow, they're bad.
ads
Well, did you
and-
see what they did? Hey, They
Well,
actually,
they froze their
they
account.
served, yeah, they served a subpoena on
Like
the
they say,
account.
when the state has too much money, it's harder to help. Because.
Yeah, they served some, they basically,
Not that I-
you know, shut down their account.
It has-
And they
It
couldn't.
really has nothing to do with the figures as much as it is the political play of who
Yeah,
gets to
it's
say
how
what.
it is.
I go back in.
By noon, I'm not gonna have it, you know.
Page 7.
I didn't see.
Commissioner's agenda, the winter NICEAG conference resolution 1 through 9. Any questions on 1 through 9? I'm gonna go through each one, and I just do one.
I'll do them all, 1 through 9.
Number
9's a good one.
Huh?
Number 9's a good one.
Yeah. Good luck.
We might not actually go.
Good luck with most of these, believe me. They're not gonna give up their gaming revenue, that's for sure.
The Fashion Institute? Oh, geez. That's expensive.
It is,
Mhm.
especially because it's supposed to be community college and I think you can get a 4-year degree there.
Yeah, you get a bachelor and master.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of different. Somebody that's going there. Yeah.
Okay. Catch you up to speed, Dan.
We just-
Motion by Supervisor May. The winter NICEAG conference.
All of them?
9.
Beautiful.
No more discussion? There is no more discussion. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Mike, you're not supposed to have walked in. Go through letters. All right, bottom of page 9. Grade 4, for HR.
This is a budget neutral or actually budget reduction proposal to create a promotional opportunity for the existing staff, no new people, to promote to an HR 3. Money, additional money will be used from the savings that have accumulated with the deputy and the salary reduction. Reduction total.
Right. And number 2,
Oh, can I ask a question? Because usually when I see a create bill, I see, and there's no change in staff, there's an abolishment. You know, you're abolishing one position to create a new position. Just confused by that.
This is a new position that does not currently exist.
Right.
So we're creating that, the old position of HR two is going to remain in place. It may be a promotional opportunity for HR one, or maybe remain vacant. With anticipation that we'll move somebody up in the future. I do not want to abolish that job. It'll go, it may go dark for a while, but it's, the job is going to remain. It's a transitional promotional opportunity as people gain experience and also for retention.
It's not on a back. At this
Wrong and then I said it.
I said you were planning on backfilling at this time. And that it would be just having it open so that you can move somebody up, correct?
Right, and I'm losing,
And make the
I'm
bottom.
losing the only person who potentially could backfill to anyway, she's resigned. So I'm starting again in the HR one, which is the next proposal number two. Kelsey Holmes has resigned effectively. And I'm seeking to replace her. She's going to Cornell Cooperative Extension. At double salary.
So he's saying that he'll always have a vacant position.
Always.
Necessarily. For a year until it automatically sunsets.
Motion?
I have a question, again. I understand what you're doing here. But I don't know if this gets you any closer to implementing Munis in the HR department. We're not, you gotta be thinking a little bit broader and adding additional staff if that's necessary to help you accomplish that.
But you're right, these positions have, these are HR generalist roles, they really have nothing to do with municipal implementation.
They're gonna do payroll or whatever.
Yeah, I'm fully staffed in the payroll department.
Okay. But to my point,
You're correct, that this doesn't add to the municipal implementation issues.
in fact, it may set you back from that because you're having to replace Kelsey, right?
Well, there's no question, it's gonna set me back, because, well, I have been sent back, as we talked about in the HR committee, we are significantly behind our data input, and finally, because of the following, Lucy Kelsey is gonna work that effort, somebody, to replace her. We have made a significant improvement in the backlog through the use of overtime and additional help from, we've got some help from other places. So I think we're really close to getting caught up. The Munis implementation has many arms and legs.
Right. It seems to me, though, that even if we approve these, you're essentially treading water.
Correct.
And you're not getting.
Actually, I'm going deeper in, I'm going south.
Okay,
Okay, I'm not gaining any ground.
so shouldn't we be thinking a little bit more longer term in terms of,
Well, that's why I'm doing this. I'm trying to get a retention plan and a promotional opportunity to retain folks in the team. We've lost people, and it takes time to get people up to speed. And hopefully that, I'm also anticipating a retirement of the next 10 to 12 months in the person who deals with civil service. Which is going to be extremely difficult to replace.
okay. So, I mean, we don't have to have this discussion now, but I think at some point in the short term, we should be looking at what we can do or what we need to do to get you closer to implementing this in HR.
I'd love to have a discussion.
Well, if it's going to require additional staff to make that happen, then we ought to have that conversation.
that's a good suggestion. Okay.
But bringing someone in that's not familiar with the system will not help to get it up and running in a more timely fashion, correct?
There's no instant offense in this. It's a longer term plan. If I could buy some instant offense, I would have done it.
Dan, I have a question. In public safety, Donald Jean brought up a fact about W-4 forms.
Yes.
Can you explain what happened? Or
I'll be happy to. I was notified that there was an issue that was discussed in public safety around some employees who had some questions about how their W-4 tax withholding forms were entered into this payroll system for the year 2020. I identified who those employees were. We went back and pulled their self-submitted W-4 change. You may recall that the IRS made some changes in the way that the W-4 forms were administrated for that tax year. That you no longer can do the married 9 deductions or whatever. It's a different formula that you have to use. It has to be very specific. If you want additional dollars taken out or whatever, and it also automatically ties a number of deductions if you're claiming married, single, married, or single, or whatever. So we went through and we looked at the forms that the employees submitted, and I gave copies of those forms to the chairwoman to verify. And Jean as well.
Okay.
And those 2 employees who their requests on their signed W-4s were implemented exactly as they requested without error or delay. Okay. I think that the employees didn't really understand what they were asking for. But we in payroll scrupulously avoid giving people tax advice. I don't think it's our role to advise people on their deductions. We don't know their family circumstance, we don't know their spouses, we don't know any of that stuff. So we can't counsel people on their deduction. So we take their forms at face value and we enter them into the system.
so it was only a few people?
Well, I've heard complaints from 2 people. Now, it's an interesting side effect that one of the 2 individuals who complained has not changed their W-4 for 2022 and has not had any federal withholding taken out all of this year so far. So they were complaining about tax year 2020. They made no changes for tax year 2021 and had had no federal withholdings so far this year. So I question what the problem was in the first place, but that aside, I can assure you that the payroll department entered the forms exactly as they were requested. And I think
I believe at least one of the employees thanked the HR department for all their assistance.
Good. So some of the, so I'm taking it some of these people just don't understand these forms. Is that it, Dan? Or most people do? I mean, I know when I worked at the sheriff's department, a lot of people would change their deductions for, say, a retro check or something like that. But then you had to have the form to change that back at the same time. To the original.
It made it very difficult for people to do that in 2019 for 2020, because people used to be able to do just that. They jack up their deductions or
correct,
for the bonus check or the
right
check,
yep.
And then the next payroll they knock it back down.
That's right. You don't do that anymore?
IRS will let you do it.
Ah.
It's not that we do, we don't.
Okay.
IRS will.
I didn't know that changed. Okay. All right, just so I know what happens, so it's in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you for answering the question.
Okay.
Any more questions? We have a motion by Supervisor King for 1 and 2.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And the 3 and 4 are user bills for Department of Social Services, account clerk and support for the theater. Those two. Okay. Any discussion on these two? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 5, the health department. Position on student aid seasonal. Superintendent's quote. Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. 6, 7 position for planning and development. For keyboard specialist, temporary. Is there any discussion on this one? Questions?
I'll just move it.
No.
This is a 3-minute extension.
Motion by Supervisor Ruler, any discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 7 and number 8, heavy equipment operator, the first construction mechanic. Motion on these two. Motion by Supervisor Brick. Approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 9, Bobby Cage. Number 10 and 11.
I'll move
Number 9,
it.
dispatch. Part-time, and then number 10, the deputy sheriff part-time. Number 11 is correctional officer.
I'll move.
Any discussion on any of these 3 questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Minimum wage 13.12. It is. So that seasonal, I think we talked
It's
about.
going up to 13.25. It's another block.
Number 5. Oh, it's current, right?
It's gonna be on page, it's $13 right now on the salary schedule. On page 14, they're gonna set the salary or the hourly wage at 13.25. Yeah.
Minimum wage is
Minimum wage is
13.20.
13.20, and
So
then
it should be
25 cents on
13.20.
top of that.
Yes, that's what I.
I thought they changed that.
5 cents over minimum wage.
Or maybe, you know, and it's a seasonal student aid.
Yeah.
Just trying to get some experience.
Okay. Going to the bottom of 12. None other rules of procedure to approve rules of special for special meetings, county attorney.
Recently had a special meeting, and when we had that, we had to research what our rules are and rules of procedure, and we don't have any. Robert's rules of procedure say for special meetings, gee, you should make your own rules. And so I suggested at my committee meeting at HR that perhaps you folks wanted to consider making your own rules. The clerk has assisted me and we gathered some rules from other counties. They basically just reiterate the how to call a special meeting, but no actual procedural rules themselves. So I just brought it up, throw it out there to see if it was something you were interested in, and I would certainly assist whatever committee is appointed if you do decide to do something with suggestions and whatnot. But that was just my suggestion, since we have rules on special meetings, if you want any, then perhaps we should modify our procedure rules.
So Cheryl, typically when we do this, we make a change to the rules of procedure. You generally put it highlighted in a,
Yes.
these are the recommended changes. Do you intend to do that?
Yeah, so what Jen is trying to do is to get a little input from the group. All of the responses that we received from my counterparts across the state basically reiterated County Law Section 152, which, like she explained, is nothing more than how to call a special meeting.
Mhm.
So,
Do they differ significantly from the procedure that we used most
no,
recently?
No, most everybody has, as their rule number two, for some reason, everybody's rule number 2 seems to be the same. It's almost word for word on County Law Section 152. I think what we were hoping for was maybe more of a procedural, who runs the meeting, once we call the meeting, what happens next?
What you kind of can't do during this meeting.
Yes, that was unclear when we
Right.
embarked on that process.
So we will most likely have rules that differ from everyone else's, but I'm okay with that, because I don't think many others have gone through what we just went through, what you all just went through.
That's what I'd like to see if we are gonna update rules is, I think that before the notice goes out, I think it should be emailed to all supervisors that my name was on something that I didn't know was gonna be on. That the email that you sent me did not say that items 1 and 2 were going to be on that. And that's not fair to me, that I agreed to something that I never saw or that I agreed to. Because it did not match your email, what was on that notice. To me, that was not honest
Sure.
to me.
So noted. I think there was some confusion initially on how that,
So that's
my
why I think
intent
we
was to
need
call the special meeting and I was saying, okay,
Actually, let me show you, like, word for word, what County Law Section 152 says, because I think there was
Well,
it was.
yeah, I don't think Sandy has any problem with the
No,
procedure.
I don't
It was
think
with
so,
the
yeah.
agenda that was
No,
stated.
I understand, but I don't think that we need to change any of that. I think it was just maybe
Yeah, but it caused some anxiety among
Absolutely.
some of the supervisors
Absolutely.
relative to that. In your memory, how often have we ever had a special meeting?
we did it.
On the 23rd, that was
It's 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
One, okay,
No, so special meetings, we've had special meetings.
Oh, we have.
Special meeting called by a majority of board of supervisors, other than the chairman or the vice chair, one time,
this most recent,
yes.
okay.
Because typically our chairperson and our vice chair or our vice chair are calling those meetings.
Sure. And county law, that you referenced,
Yeah.
special meetings. So it's my understanding, special meetings can be called by the chair and the vice chair,
Yeah, let me read it, I mean, it's short, and I've got it right here.
or a majority of, in writing.
Right. So, and I'll just grab, let's see, who am I looking at? Onondaga County, which, these are all just reiterations of County Law Section 152. And their rules state, special sessions of the county legislature shall come filing with the clerk of a request therefore by A, the chairman, they have a majority leader and a minority leader, or B, a majority of all the members of the legislature be called by the clerk of the county legislature by mailing to each member at least 3 days before the date of such session, a written notice thereof stating the date, time, and purpose of such sessions. And remember that when there are special meetings, you can only conduct the business that's advertised, right? It says, C, the clerk shall also call a special session by notifying each member before the time of such session, conveying the date, time, and purpose of such special session upon filing with the clerk, a request therefore by, this one's 2/3 of all members, the rest are a majority. This particular one is 2/3. A member may waive the service of notice for a special session by a writing signed by him. That's just right off the top, what I got.
Okay.
So it's food for thought. If you as a board, if this ever should happen again, do you have any thoughts on, once this meeting is called by a majority of the supervisors, who then would run the meeting, I think is what Jen and I were thinking, because we were all kind of, I mean, because there is nothing stated in Robert's rules, they stay silent on that, and because we didn't have anything in our rules, it reverts back to the chair or the vice chair,
Sure.
and that may not always be appropriate. Food for thought. But nothing that's gonna be done today.
Oh, we ought to have it codified in some form, right? In the rules of procedure, you know?
Yeah, we'll have to amend them like that process allows for, once
Right.
we have language
Yes.
to present.
Well, we'll wait until we see language then, right?
Are you waiting for?
Well, the first question is, do you want language?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
I have about 1,000 other projects that you all have me working on, that I have to work on. So I'm not looking for more work too, but if it's something that you want done, I'm happy to either, like I said, meet with folks or take suggestions and formulate something for discussion. If you don't, and you're like, no, we're happy with how things went and we don't need to do anything, then I'm happy to say, thank you and have a great day.
Personally, Jennifer, I would just say, put it on the back burner. I mean, we don't do this that often, right? And we know how to do it if we need to, but I wouldn't necessarily put a lot of it, personally, that's my opinion, wouldn't put a lot of effort into it.
Right.
You have a lot more important stuff that you're working on.
There it is.
Okay, that's just my opinion. I don't know what the other supervisors.
I agree.
Yeah, let's do 6.
6, right?
6.
Oh.
Good, good.
All right. More discussion.
Now, do we have a rule for like a coup d'etat or what, you know? No.
No coup d'etat means no rules. No coup is no rule.
Okay, moving on. On page 12. Human resources and men's schedules, SDC. Change of longevity and career positions. Questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Page 13. This is the agent. Fact that on some for Alzheimer's care coordinator. To, officer agent issues for. Any questions on those three? Motion. Supervisor Becker. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Social services, Brandon Page. Social services. Appropriation for facility equipment. Motion on this. Where there's going to be. Any discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Page 14. This is for hotel. Up to the. TRX, what's TRX?
Training, I don't know why there's next, but
That's what they use for their acronym for training.
And a medical for an inmate. Up to a year. Any questions on this? Yeah, motion by Supervisor Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then number three, then the $13 to 13 and a quarter for the student aid and public aid, or public health, that's student aid zero. Where's Colby? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Page 15, the sheriff's office. And just, the undersheriff, the administrative assistant, and include the payrolls. And then also for jail administrator and jail senior cook. That's sheriff's. Motion by Supervisor Ray. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now to the top of page 16. Emergency services appropriation for sale of equipment. Training facility. Motion on that. By Supervisor Mang. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That carried. And Public Defender's Office.
I'll move those two.
Those two. Questions on these? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Few minutes late, sorry, thanks. Down to you. General update. What? The general update.
Thanks. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Start off, health system in February, again, with the perfect storm, lost $1.4 million. Budget was $824,000 lost. And last year we lost $714,000. A lot of this is due to the staffing crisis that continues. We have agency staff and med-surg, OB, and skilled nursing facility. For example, agency in the hospital, we get 29 RNs, 2 respiratory therapists, and they're all contracted staff for a minimum of 1 contract. The nursing home has 1 RN, 10 LPNs, and 8 CNAs. All of the nursing home staff are per diem staff, so when they're called in, they're agency staff. Obviously, agency costs are up to as much as $150 an hour. It's very difficult. There also continues to be issues with getting patients out of the hospital due to multiple things. There's a nursing home staffing issue that was put forth by the state. There are other issues because of the staffing crisis across the region. Many facilities have closed units because they don't want to staff them, so that becomes difficult. We are juggling as much as we possibly can with the current staff and trying to minimize our agency usage within the facility. COVID-19 rates have declined significantly across the state, although we aren't doing it, but masks are still required in healthcare facilities, doctor's offices. So we're still doing that. We're still also doing some limited education, limited number of people that are allowed to see patients in nursing homes. As you can tell, finances are tight. We did in March receive an IGP payment that was close to $1 million. Other things that happened during the month of March and February. The Mount Morris Dialysis Center, we had the ribbon cutting on March 10th. The lab project continues. We're in phase 2, which is the last phase. There's been a lot of coordination between in-house and external contractors. So hopefully that will be done by the end of June. We've run into some difficulty with being able to do some of the work that needs to be done during the day. So it's been difficult because the portion of the lab in the second phase is right below the OR. So if we have OR scheduled, we can't do that day at that time. We did receive a $126,000 grant from Rural Healthcare Access Development Program. We will be using that for hospital infrastructure. Also, Dr. Zahar Ali, who's a podiatrist, has started, and he is seeing patients 5 days a week. Our other podiatrists are seeing patients 2.5 days per week, and they're still here to the end of May. The laboratory had a successful joint commission survey, and the nursing home, after a 37-month delay, had a very successful state review. They did a great job. Questions?
Question, we have a whole bunch of people that we either resigned or quit or were fired due to lack of vaccination. I mean, I think that if there's nothing looking for change.
We have reached out to some, and we do have a couple coming back. We also, agency staffing has died down a little bit. We do have some people that left for agency that have also contacted Connie Almeida just recently, like yesterday. So there is some hope that we can cut down on our agency and be able to hire staff. Also, the new rates for RNs also will be very helpful. They've been advertised, so I think that also is going to help. Another thing that may help us is we're looking at premium staffing and trying to get creative with getting some premium staffing in as well. And one other thing that may help is Kaleida Health is starting to negotiate, and there's a lot of talk that there could be some issues moving there, and we may be able to get some pretty people to work in the facility as well. So we're looking at all of our options to be able to advertise as best we can to get help within the facility to cut down on the agency. Contracts, there's a lot.
I have a question, Mike. Are we still conducting patient satisfaction surveys at the hospital?
Yes.
And
We're required to do that by CMS. They're sent out. We have a company called Press Gaming. They actually send them out randomly, and then we get a report.
okay, I haven't seen anything recently in terms of patient satisfaction levels at the hospital, or had that reported to you?
They still come in, we still are, we're still
Okay.
doing it.
Okay, but we haven't reported them or not?
They get reported at the quality board quarterly at those.
Okay, but not to this group.
I don't know if they've ever been reported here.
But we did.
Maybe Joe was, I don't know.
Yeah, at some point, maybe.
We can certainly do that even for next month.
Sure.
I was just curious what the rate of return is. How many you sent out, how many you get back? I want to get them, I usually check me. So, I'm just curious what your rate of return is when you send them out.
It's over 50%.
They do 3 sends. So if the person didn't respond the first time, they'll send them out again. And then a couple weeks later, they'll send out a third one, hoping to get the response back. And these surveys go directly to Pressine. We don't get to manipulate them or do anything with them. We just get the reports.
But you also have anecdotal comments that are
Yes.
added as well.
Yes, and those go to the quality board as well, if there's any
Okay,
negative or positive. Break it down by department, position. I can break it down however you want.
sure.
We do work close with, our department, I would get for, you know, and reach out to our directors. They all get feedback and we get feedback, yeah, to the staff as well.
Are they reviewed by the board of managers,
The quality board.
the quality board?
Committee.
Are they part of the board of managers or?
There are 2 board managers that sit on that board, yes, and others are invited as well.
And that's in the minutes for quality board. So.
Mhm. Have you seen any of the patient satisfaction surveys?
Within the quality, yes.
Okay,
Contracts. The first contract is DCCS Consulting, that's Merlin, yeah. Who was our, interim, contract with CFO. And this is to increase the amount of, not to exceed. Everyone was originally done with his travel and some other things were not calculated in there, so that is a change in the not to exceed. Next one is also DCCS. This is Sarah Rose, who is our interim director of surgery. This is another change in that to exceed for the same. Next one is Fisher Healthcare. This is a change in the term. This was lab related. The appointment was delayed because of construction and we changed the term to accommodate the start date of that. And that's when it's energy and mechanicals. This is a change in the term because in the past, we put down start dates and end dates. We're changing that to through completion of projects because there's probably delays all over the place, as everyone probably knows, we try to order things. They don't always come in on time. There's delays and so instead of continuously coming back and just changing the date, we're saying through completion of project. And next one is TrueBridge. This is a change and this is a contract management system that's used in the revenue department. This is a change in terms to extend the amount till 2024. This is language for local coverage to cover him when he's not available to work. This is around 25,000. This was only for a short period of time. The next one is Weatherby locums. This is locum coverage. This is a contract for all different services throughout the facility. If we need a locum, we contract with Weatherby. If one of the companies that deal with locums. And next one is professional services contract with TK Elevator Corporation. This is a 5-year service contract. This is actually a reduction from our old contract. We were able to get I signed a 5-year contract. We were able to get the cost down on that, and that's for maintenance and annual inspections of, or inspections every 2 months of our elevator. The next one is the University of Buffalo Pathology. This is Dr. Karen Crable, who's our pathologist, medical lab director. This is a 2-year contract with UD. And next one is Batavia Neurological Services. This is to extend Dr. Hilbert's contract for 1 additional year. The next one is Dr. David. This is an extension of his current contract until we're able to finalize a new contract with Dr. Carter. The next one is Valerie Long, who is an OBGYN physician. This is an employment contract. The next one is St. Mary's Radiology. This is our radiology service. This is a 3-year contract, and it's not to exceed $45,000 per year. And that's the salary schedule C, for the director of surgical services position, to set the salary at $100,000. The next one is to abolish the administrative secretary position in the nursing facility administration and create an administrative assistant in nursing facility administration. The next one is director of SNF education and infection prevention. This is to create a position in the nursing facility. The next one is to change the 2021 lump sum amount for the clinic office manager position. The current clinic office manager was partially in 2021 a union employee for the Schedule C. The next one is to change the lump sum for the laboratory director. The laboratory director in 2021 received a pay increase. The next one is to amend salary schedule P. The first one is for an orthopedic surgeon at $509,000. The next one is to create an OBGYN physician position. This is Valerie Holm, 25. The next one is to include a stipend for OBGYN physician under the clinic. This is also tied to Valerie Holm's contract. We are now starting to tie contracts to work reviews, which is productivity based. If she exceeds 4,400, which is pretty much based on 4,400 work reviews, equates to the salary of 225, basically by medical food management association utilize, and that's also what lawyers utilize to make sure that we're offering things at market. She would receive an additional $32 per work review, which is about 4,400. The next one is to create an OBGYN physician position at $630,000 a year. This would eliminate our contract with Dr. Barkett Valaya. Actually, between the two OBGYN physicians, there's a split savings. The next one is to create a per diem physician assistant in the orthopedic clinic at a rate of $83.13. This is based on our view of around 9,000. The next one is to create a physician assistant position full-time in the orthopedic clinic at set at a salary of $125,000. The Wyoming County Family Medicine Clinic. This particular individual went from being a 0.8 FTE to a full-time FTE. And the last one is to abolish Schedule X. And the Schedule X handbook, all of the Schedule X employees have now been moved to the CSEA union bargaining.
I have a question on number 12, Dr. Privatera.
Yes.
How often does he work?
He's here 5 days a week.
Yes?
Yes.
And this is the orthopedic clinic?
Yes.
Okay. The reason that I ask is I've had several occasions in the last couple of weeks to be at the hospital. And every time I've gone by the clinic, there's absolutely no one in there except for a secretary.
Oh, because we had our Dr. Lee, who's a podiatrist, is also seeing patients there. Dr. Privatera has been there, and we did have, and we still have, an orthopedic both in there as well.
Do we know how much money he generates, Dr. Privatera?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I just wondered what was.
And he's on here, so it depends on the day that you're there too, because he has surgery days.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
That would make a difference.
Thank you.
I have a question on number 2. DCS consulting, that's for the CFO.
Yeah.
What is the additional $50,000 for?
Most of it has to do with his extension of travel. When this was originally done, it didn't.
Right, it was supposed to be all inclusive.
It wasn't all.
So this is $350,000 a year then for the CFO.
No, we're increasing the amount to 200.
Was our, wasn't the previous contract for $150,000
It
for
was
6
for
months?
150, so.
And now an additional $200,000.
We're moving it to 200, not to exceed 200, so we're actually adding 50,000
Yeah, but they're at 6-month intervals.
to that.
Are they, or not? Okay, so in my mind,
Oh, I see what you're saying. It would be
150,000 for the first 6 months and an additional 200,000 for the second 6 months is $350,000. Right?
Right.
So,
It's really 200,000.
yeah, I get that, but I'm talking per year.
It would be 400.
And I know what we were paying the CFO before, it was a full-time employee, which is about half of this, less than half.
Yes, I agree.
Just wanted to make a point.
I understand. That's why we're.
How about everybody else? I'm going to vote no on this when it comes up for board. I don't have a vote here because I'm not on the committee.
I have just an observation. We're keeping Sally Rhodes 4 days a week for $200,000 through September 6th, but we've hired a director of surgical services at least a couple of weeks ago.
A couple of weeks ago, Sally is phasing out. Again, this is just to bring that up with the expenses. The same thing was done, there's so much travel involved in these.
Are we keeping Sally until September 6th?
No, no. I believe Sally would probably be here for another couple of weeks and then she'll go.
So that was an error in both of those contracts that, because I thought I remembered when they were brought up that it said travel, including travel. I thought.
The contract said including travel, but when the dollar amount was done, it was just done at the rate. It didn't include travel and expenses, and that's what we're over. That's what we're over. I mean, we're almost flying to Dallas every Sunday, that's not back and forth. We're paying for him to be in a hotel, we're paying for his rent car, and we're paying for food on a daily basis.
I want that gig. Sorry.
So whose error was that?
Under the bus, but it was kind of Joe's.
Okay, just.
So, and we're right at the point now where we're close to exceeding the 150 and 200. So that's why we brought it back. That's why we're bringing it back.
Best thing we could do is get somebody hired and.
Exactly. And Dan has hired a search firm to help us with the CFO position. I can honestly tell you that we haven't really seen anybody that's really qualified for the CFO position. We have not had anybody, and Dan, you can speak to this too. We haven't really had anybody with healthcare experience apply for the position that we've seen so far. And that's, it has to happen. Somebody needs to have healthcare experience.
Yeah, we had a kind of change in strategy with regard to the CFO search. Originally, when we thought Berlin was going to be here for the longer term, we decided to focus exclusively on the chief executive, the financial officer position on the back burner, because we thought we were going to have some consistency in that role term. When we was notified a few weeks ago that Merlin was ending his contract in June, that strategy changed. And we now moved more aggressively with regard to the search for the CFO with our contracted headhunter. We do have a few promising leads that we're going to be pursuing. And they all meet the essential criteria of hospital experience and or nursing home experience within the price range that we think is doable and with a strong affiliation or connection to Western New York. We're working through to finalize that as we finish with our CEO, which we're going to be talking about in this meeting in a couple minutes. That's the progress.
Dan, do you remember the cost for that search?
There's no expense to the kind of, it's a no expense, it's a contingency. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the way that works, we're paying only if we hire somebody that this agency brings forward. And it also has a guarantee, so if they don't work out, if they leave, we get our commission, essentially their commission, we make them back. And then it's a percentage of the first year's salary. So, if they don't bring us a candidate, we pay them.
So what is the percentage? There is a cost. So what's the percentage?
I think it's 25%.
Okay, thank you.
Only if we hire.
Well, okay, but that's our goal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's two ways.
It's not free.
No, I'm not suggesting it's free. There's two ways to do this. There's the contingency search and then there's
I understand.
a paid search. And we did not want to do a paid search. We wanted to do a contingency search.
And that range is 130 to what?
I'm sorry.
The range is 130 to
Which job?
the CFO.
I don't know the advertising range right off the top of my head, to be honest. I think it's, I'll check it and get back.
Good job.
Just wondering. So, is the controller though?
No.
We've had tremendous difference. We've been advertising for the comptroller position since 2 weeks before it was vacant, so I'm talking 3 months now, maybe. And we've not had one qualified applicant take application. The landscape for financially qualified people right now is extremely difficult. Quite honestly, we're not at the end of the future. So we're not attracting what I would call qualified candidates. And the candidates that have come forward don't meet the minimum of education experience. So either we're going to have to reduce our asks or continue to search for a qualified candidate.
And what you mean by reduce our ask is reduce?
The prerequisites of education.
And then what they bring to the table. Yeah.
Lower experience, lower education, and more money. And I don't want to do that. I think that's self-defeating.
So who's doing this work then now?
The team is pitching in and getting it done. But we're stretched, right?
Yes.
Very.
And the auditors.
The auditors are here now.
Who is working on that?
So we're gonna be like the treasurer, that we just appointed, give her some money because she took over a job, but these folks gonna come in want money because they're doing another job too.
Do what?
We approved money for the appointed treasurer because she did the treasurer's job. Are we gonna, these folks that are doing this job, they're gonna come in and want some money for doing it?
That has been discussed.
We haven't offered anything out there yet, but
And we don't have anybody in the acting control. The role is vacant, Berlin is essentially doing the job.
and get that to Merlin, he is, excuse me, he's like
Traveling nurse.
traveling nurse. Is that,
That's why it's more.
right, we're paying agency money. And if we weren't paying Merlin right now, it'd be a lot more bigger, but.
I need a room.
You know what?
I need a room.
You need a room.
The previous controller, did she have healthcare experience, financial healthcare experience? The one that just left? Jen. Jen Asquith. Did she have healthcare experience before she was
She had
hired?
a lot of experience.
At a bank, right?
Yes.
I mean,
But
did the job.
I actually am looking at some other people. I just looked at somebody today that I want to call in for an interview. I came from banking and went to healthcare. So, in finance.
I know someone that applied with an MBA,
Yes.
spent a lot of time there, and then
She. It's not qualified. Yeah.
I think we're gonna have a hard time finding someone with healthcare experience.
Strong accounting experience would be good. I mean, numbers are numbers.
Exactly.
But strong accounting experience as opposed to business.
Yeah, an MBA does not have strong accounting.
I mean, it's.
We need somebody with an accounting degree. Bare minimum.
Okay. Are there any other questions for 1 through 17? Any other questions? Do I hear a motion now? A motion by Supervisor Becker on 2 through 17. More discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? 17 of the charity. Number 18. We brought back up about the board members, hospital boards. And Janice Shirley is planning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I still think we should hold off on this one.
Aye.
I think we should hold off on the board of managers appointment still.
Should hold off on it.
I think we need to hold off on it until we straighten things out. I don't see a big rush. I don't know how everybody else feels, but yeah, she did, but
She's qualified, very qualified, right?
Yeah.
Based on her letter of interest. Seemed like she was.
A lot, but I thought we decided last month to wait
right,
because
Pending.
we were unsure of the size of the board because that's changed in different things, I thought.
yeah,
Do you want to, like,
that's what I thought too, like.
so this just came up because it was tabled until.
Right, we tabled it the last time.
Do I remove it completely and let someone else worry about bringing it back, or? Because that's why I resurfaced.
We don't have,
There's 10 pages of her resume here.
yeah.
It's quite impressive.
Quite
I
impressive.
think there were
But-
other applicants, but I haven't.
Have not received any other inquiries that.
I thought they were changing the size of the board of managers. I don't know, but there was mention of that. And I know it's flexible. I just don't know how it's determined when to increase or decrease the size of the board of managers.
I think it's about the same way as whether you increase or decrease the Supreme Court.
No.
What side of the? you're on?
No, because the bylaws say it's between this number and this number.
5 to 15.
And we've had several either removals or resignations. And some of those people have been replaced and some of those people haven't been replaced.
We've only had one removal that we replaced.
All right, but you had a resignation.
The rest of them are resignations.
All right, so
How many vacancies are there on the current?
again, it's fluid.
Well, there's no vacancies, there's just open seat possibilities.
Well, no, you've got,
8 right now, and there was 11.
there was 11, so there
There are
are,
3 resignations in the past 2 months. 3 months.
okay.
Well,
Oh.
one term just expired, is what it was. One's term
Yes.
expired,
Correct.
and she didn't express any interest in.
So technically, there's 7 possibilities, but no requirement to fill any of those 7 seats.
Correct.
Correct.
Other than right now, you have an even number, do you want an odd number, uneven for, there's no ties.
And then who decides the size of the board?
We do.
Board of supervisors or the board of managers?
Of course.
So how come it's under the 11? I'm completely
Candidates have
confused.
come forward. Or a search hasn't been done.
Is there,
There hasn't been a search done per se. We haven't put out. People asking them.
is there a minimum number required to have a quorum?
5.
5. Okay, and you have 7 currently? 8 currently, okay.
Cheryl, did you find out where that application was for the Board of Managers? Have we talked about it?
Yeah, and I actually put it on the website now,
Oh, it's on the county website?
so we've had it all along. And, I thought Pam had it too, because we both use it when we hear that there's somebody interested, we pass it along.
Again, I would think that the minimum number for a quorum would be based upon what the current number of board manager overall is. So if it was, let's say it was 15 people were on there, you would have to have 8. If you had 9 people on there, it would be 5. So I would believe it would fluctuate along.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, Brian, whether or not the bylaws stated a minimum number.
Yeah, I just stress that. The board size is 5 to 15. It's chosen by the board supervisors. Of that 5 to 15, roughly you have to have 20% paid position. That's in the bylaws as well. We do have 8. If it's not specified otherwise, we go by Robert's Rules of Order. So a quorum of 8 people is something above the 50% number. So in our case, it would be 5 right now. If it's 11, it would be 6 people, right?
Sure.
It's defined by Robert's Rules of Order in terms of what a quorum is.
Okay. So what is the reservation about this individual? I'm not sure. I mean, I've read her resume. and-
No, she's got a good resume. I'm not, no, I'm not, I just didn't know what.
I think she looks more than qualified.
On paper.
On paper,
paper.
I think, yeah.
I had a conversation with her.
You did?
Did,
Yep.
what did you think?
I thought she was qualified
Is she
based
qualified?
on my conversation and her resume. She's interested, shows a strong interest in the county and in the hospital. Again, I think we need to develop some level of consistency, and we don't have it.
In what form, Mike?
I think there are other people that have expressed interest.
Okay. And they've been excluded?
I don't know.
But they can still apply and bring them forward to a 9th seat or a 10th seat.
I think Cheryl has.
This is the only one I have.
Must be the,
I don't
must be
have
the
any
pay.
more.
I'm sure it's okay.
it astounds me, you know, we pay people to sit on our civil service board $200 a meeting. And yet we have a hospital with a huge payroll and we don't pay them anything.
And they spend a great deal of time.
It is, we can't pay them.
You just made it
that one out.
better, right?
Maybe you get a discount in the shop.
On your surgery?
In the shop. Surgery, yeah.
10% discount.
You take your basins home.
Okay, so,
Just again, my concern about consistency.
See, when I get applications, I just put them on the agenda. I don't make any
Nope.
determination whatsoever. If it lands in my lap, it lands on an agenda. That's just the way I've always done it.
I mean,
Oh, maybe you can invite the person that is applying and have them meet with us.
I think that can be a bit overwhelming, but I think at least
Right, that we
a
get,
person or two from the committee or from
sure.
Sure.
should do that and report back.
Is that the process, or does the board of managers vet them and send them to us?
It happens in a whole host of ways.
Has the board of managers
General municipal
interviewed
law that's
this
out
individual?
there.
You haven't spoken to her.
I see on the rest of our agenda here, we have I think the first thing was Beth Henderson. She called me up and said she wanted to get on it. So I don't know who else is out there, but you think they'd apply, right? Have an application here in front of us, so.
It just be tabled to the next meeting.
I just question why.
Right.
I kind of agree. I mean, we only have 8 people on there, so you got an even number.
Yeah, I don't.
You know, it's always good to have an odd number on every board.
I agree.
I don't know if we're gonna resolve the consistency aspect of it. And we got an individual who's interested in serving on that board. Who's, by all appearances, very qualified to do so. Let's go with it. You know,
whatever.
I'll make a motion.
Don't.
Okay,
Want to change the board. Any more discussion on this? All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Carries. Put you through that.
So the next item on the agenda was put there at my request. However, I'm going to state, however, that was before I had reviewed not only their resumes, but also Mr. Farberman was good enough to send the interview highlights to me from the 25 or so people who participated in that process. And I'll state for the record, I have no problem with any of these candidates. And quite frankly, I think, you know, the interviews looked like they were very thorough, so on. I would be happy to accept the recommendation from the Board of Managers in terms of who you think you want for a CEO. I don't know if we're gonna be able to afford them, but that's another matter.
That's a whole.
So, I mean, from a discussion standpoint, I've got no problem with what you guys have done so far.
Any other comments or questions?
I don't know if everyone has seen the comments.
They were all set.
I don't think so. I think
Yeah,
the resumes went out
the comments.
I don't think everyone had an opportunity to look at the comments.
No.
Did they go by candidate?
By candidate, yes. Is this confidential? It is, so therefore, okay, that's why you didn't see them.
just to let me highlight the process that we use to land where we are now. As we discussed earlier, we approved hiring a search firm for systems personnel. We engaged with them. They began an in-depth search using our criteria. There were 92 individuals that they vetted through their internal processes. All those 92 individuals that they vetted, and it's a very comprehensive process that they used, we whittled it down to 4. There was a subcommittee appointed by the Board of Managers to conduct initial screenings of the 4. From that, we eliminated the 4th candidate. We ended up with 3. Then we created the 25-person gauntlet to interview each one of the 3 candidates in person. We did that over 3 successive days at the hospital, and all 25 people participated in each one of those interviews, either in person or by Zoom. Each one of those 25 interviewers were asked to fill out an evaluation and a ranking on each one of those candidates. And there was a consensus reached by those 25, as well as the Board of Managers in their ranking. And we have identified our lead candidate as a result of that process. And that's where we are right now. And we're going to come here to ask you your permission to enter into a negotiation to hire our lead candidate, or attempt to hire our lead candidate.
And I just add, Friday, we held a special board managers meeting where we went through the summary ranking candidates. Looked at what their identified salary requests were, passed a motion to begin negotiation with an annual first year salary to exceed $395. Not that that's the number, but so negotiating. And pass that resolution to try to keep it on time to get someone hired as soon as possible. Right? How successful would be at negotiations to determine start that process.
So you would make that offer to your lead candidate?
Then we would engage in negotiations with our lead candidate. It is not our intent to lead with our.
Of course. I mean, are there, in your discussions from a salary perspective, are there some clawback provisions and
we haven't
longevity, or?
We haven't engaged in any substantive financial conversations with the candidate. We had our agent. I'm not going to talk about it.
Well, okay, some numbers that have thrown out. Just so you know.
The motion, I'm not sure there's a public motion.
Okay.
So that was not.
I think we're just talking about approach. Strategy.
So we have a couple of different negotiation strategies. Performance, clawback, retention, they're all in the mix of things that we'll talk to the candidate about. And each one of them, depending on the needs of that candidate and what their goals are, I think we'll try to tailor a package that will be attractive to them and also beneficial to the county and protect our interests as well. And we haven't begun those conversations because we don't have approval.
So could we give you that approval today?
That's
okay.
That's why we're here.
Because, time is of the essence.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
We don't want to wait another committee cycle and lose another month, because I think that doesn't serve any purpose.
And any of the candidates, it will take them between 4 and 6 weeks, I believe.
They're going to have to disengage with their.
Should give it like 30 days.
Normal, we should have that.
We could verify with each of their timeline, and that's the range, 46 weeks.
Okay.
The other thing is that all of them do have a strong tie to Western New York.
Right.
And would be working in Western New York, so.
What is the length of a contract that you're anticipating with this individual?
What was Joe's contract like? 3 years? 2 years?
Yours was 5. That's too long, in my opinion.
If we're going to get into the specifics of
I'm just-
the negotiations, I'd rather do that in executive session.
I just wondered if you had something in mind.
It restricts
Sure,
our ability to have a negotiation.
okay,
Happy to talk about it with you, but not in a public forum. Because if they get back in the can, then they'll know what our bottom line is.
sure. Well, yeah, I mean, if we, assuming we give you permission to move forward, then would it then be the opportunity to come back and talk about terms?
Yeah, whatever it is that's negotiated will be tentative,
Of course,
and we'll have to come back to maybe for final approval. So, yeah, we'll certainly have an opportunity to review and question and comment on whatever
okay,
we work out.
I'll let you take it on that as I remember a football coach getting, let's say, a 4-year contract. They said, well, how many years do you think it's gonna take to turn this team around so we can see the Super Bowl? He said 5, that way he's 1 year beyond his contract. It's signed.
of course.
All right, so you want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion to direct the Board of Managers to move forward, HR, right?
HR and board managers move forward with the motion.
Right, with their,
That would be a conflict.
I just wondered which one.
That we should talk about it in the session.
Executive,
yeah,
I'd like to know too.
I was gonna go to the session before we.
Let's finish. We finish the rest.
Or do you, would it be enough that they just whisper it in your ear after?
In response to Mr. Roach's question about the term of the contract, rather than that, but not to discuss the actual term, but I can tell you, that each one of the candidates interviewed expressed a desire for some employment security provisions. And I would tell you that there is and community interest in this whole thing has firmed up their desires for some employment security guarantees. And something that no more faults occur between now and the time that other because I think the whole was first.
Okay. So
sure.
let's move forward on the agenda.
Oh, yeah.
Moving this.
I'll make the motion
You want to make a motion?
to,
Susie, what do you want to do?
Do you still want an executive session or not? It's up to you guys. I don't care.
she doesn't need an executive session. She's seen what I've seen.
All right. So no more discussion on this. Motion been made by Supervisor Ruler to move forward with board managers, HR, and the other 25 employees.
Enter into negotiations.
Okay.
With their preferred candidate, that's what they're doing.
I'm sorry.
With their preferred candidate.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's- To secure one
Sure.
Okay. Everybody else, the motion on the floor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There it is. Bottom of page 6.
He's dead though.
Then it from discussion meeting. Establish one special planning board of trainers to accept investigation from the government of action with board managers.
I gotta go around.
Oh, I gotta take your next one. The reason I believe it is What's the board's feelings on this? I personally, being other board managers,
Need to abstain.
Yes,
correct,
yes.
correct. But I also can put my 2 cents out there that I don't know that the knowledge or expertise is on this board
Oh,
to
no.
investigate what you guys are talking about. Well, it's a special committee of the board of supervisors.
A
So
point is,
you're asking
yeah,
for a group of this board to investigate. I'm not for sure on all the allegations, but your allegations against the board manager. And
And I
being
think this,
presumptuous, I don't know that there's anything to investigate, but with that being said, I don't see the board of supervisors having the expertise to do the investigation. So that would be hiring an outside, in my eyes, an outside firm. And doing that, number 2, you ask for $25,000 to expend on this. You won't even cover the cost of some outside legal service to investigate them.
we don't know.
So,
and I guess I don't understand what it is that you think that needs to be investigated. From reading what the attorney gave us, I haven't been told or heard anything that they've done anything wrong. So I don't know what it is that you want to investigate.
executive session?
Yeah, I think this conversation probably needs to occur in an executive session personally.
So we'll save that for executive session. Which will include number 3. And then number 4. We have letters from Laura W. Dion, I'm not for sure who that is. But Barb Henderson.
Mr. Chair, number 3 is actually in the form of a resolution, which I had submitted to the clerk on 3/15.
Well, before we do that, I would have a session for that, discuss that also. As far as number 4 on the agenda, the letter from Bubba, we read those. Questions, comments? I believe we have one number here, one of the letter writers here.
You wrote,
I did, I wrote 2, I wrote one day, and then in the meantime, I have talked to that place myself before, folks, I saw it Wednesday, and I had it sent for all of you to read.
Going into discussion on that. Is there any- Or does anyone want to go into discussion on that? So everybody's read them, everybody understand them?
will those letters be read at our regular board meeting?
It's up to you. They were asked to come here, so that's what I brought them.
Okay, to the finance committee.
Beyond that, I have no plans to do anything. Because that's where my.
Well, I mean,
ended.
routinely, we cover correspondence in our Board of Supervisors
We
meeting.
do, but my instruction was to bring them here. There was no further instruction on that correspondence. So
Okay.
it would be further instruction to do something more.
Where would you like to have it read?
Well, I think everybody in this room knows my feelings.
Of course.
And, read it and.
Yep. And so,
Thank you for the time that you took to write.
Okay. That's it. I would like to see a motion to go to executive session to discuss contracts and contract for CEO, discussion of the special committee to board of supervisors. Discussion of the contract. With that,
Including those three people there, or
yeah, Mr. Farmer stays, Mr. Ferguson stayed, and so did board manager, president, and
Sue, our attorney.
yeah, and a lawyer. So we have a motion?
I'll make it.
Motion by Supervisor May. Go in at 12:08.
I'll give it
Yes, sir.
Yes. Should make sure nobody's hiding the cars.
Gotta kill the YouTube, right? And YouTube at least.
Lord, it was great. I understand that in Virginia this week. Oh, they used to have a garbage can. They gave you garbage can and everybody would bring booze to dump into it and drink out of the garbage can the first time.
Absolutely. What do they call it? Zombie?
Zombie,
Those would be pretty big.
I'd be more than that'd be one hell of a party.
I do a few of those. Wow.
3 times 3 is out.
Okay.